We're going to dive into hydration today and the importance of that. This time of the year, it's extra important to stay hydrated. We're inside a lot more. We're not moving as much, so we really have to maintain our hydration. But as we know, hydration is so much more than just drinking water. We're kind of talking about cellular hydration here. So can you share your perspective on hydration and kind of the best way to go about that this time of the year?
The misperception that we have about hydration is that it just comes from water. You need to drink more water is always heard year in and year out, and everybody says that. And the misperception about the state of hydration is that if you're peeing clear, you're hydrated. Mm-hmm. If your urine is yellow, then you must be dehydrated. And so that is a huge misperception, because it turns out that water going into your mouth, passing into your bloodstream, and going right out your kidney doesn't do much for your body. That is free water that never got inside of a cell and hasn't done its most important work, which is clean the inside of the cell. It's the most important detergent in your body is the water molecule. If it can't get inside the cell, it's not doing its work to clean the toxins that are made in your normal day of metabolism, absorbed through, of course, our chemical food chain, everything else. So we got a lot of junk that's kind of caking up the function of our individual cells. We need to get that cleaned out by getting water inside those cells. And so if you tend to drink water and then you feel like you're peeing it out half an hour later and there's nothing you can do to stop that pattern, you know you're actually lost that ability to get that water inside the cell and get the junk out. And so a lot of work we're doing around this has to do with shifting our belief system about where the water should be coming from. We know that there needs to be solute in the water for it to start to act as give it the opportunity to actually move inside of a cell. So less about drinking free water. And so what do we do when it comes to food and getting the water in? Some of the most high water containing vegetables that you can consume are the beet and root vegetables. So beets, turnips, daikon radishes, and the like, huge piece of that. But also like a cucumber, another good example of a vegetable that's got a ton of water in there. Importantly, it's coming with the fiber. And so if you're drinking water via a cucumber or via a beet, the water in there is in a very dynamic state. It's actually in what we would call an organified state of water. We can do this with minerals as well. If you eat a calcium supplement, it's going to pee out most of it, and some of it will get deposited in your blood vessels and accelerate your aging process. So I'm a huge opponent to the whole belief that we should take calcium supplements, for example. But what needs to happen is you need to eat plants and foods that are enriched with calcium, because now it's been a bacteria or a fungi that's processed the calcium into an organic salt, moved it in through a root fibril into the vegetable or fruit, and now you're getting that calcium secondhand. So you're much better getting that through an orange or a piece of fruit or something like that than you would try to take some dense calcium supplement. Milk, terrible version of calcium in milk, and so that ends up causing osteoporosis and bone loss if we take oral calcium in the form of dairy, and yet all the endocrinologists out there tend to say you should eat more dairy if you have osteoporosis or low bone density. And so this is an example of this concept of calcium is good, but only if it's in an organified version, meaning that the bacteria and fungi have turned that into a biologic compound that you can utilize. If we don't allow all of that intelligence of nature to take over, and we try to micromanage that with a load of elemental calcium, we're going to do damage, not good. Bizarrely, the same thing happens with water. Water coming out of a pipe is pretty dead, and so it's taken 90-degree bends all over the city and then through to your house and then in your house just to come out your faucet. It's taken hundreds of hard 90-degree turns to get to where you are. Every time you crash water into a dead end and make it turn 90 degrees, you've caused some serious damage to the energetic structure of the H2O. It's literally losing energy. The interesting thing about water is it's very electrically charged, and as it loses its electrical charge, it starts to clump. And so the water coming out of a city tap typically has 75 to 100 water molecules that are now electrically globbed together, and that has a hard time releasing a single water molecule, a single H2O, to transit the tiny little aquapore in the surface of your cell. And so even if you do get enough water in, and even if it does reach the surface of a cell, it's going to be very slow to hydrate the inside of that cell, because it needs to wait until one of those H2Os breaks off of this big electrical glob of water. If you go look at the stream that runs down a mountainside, the typical structure is 10 to 12 water molecules in relationship, and they're very highly charged, meaning they release frequently and will rebond together. but it's very dynamic versus the more stagnant state of these macro globules that will come out of a tap. And so living water is a very cool experience and a cool thought. How do you guarantee your water is living at this point? You need to get some sort of natural process going in there. So a splash of salt and shake it up. There's lots of fancy filters you can buy now that will put them in a vortex or put them through circular beads to get the water tumbling again in a natural vortex, and that can help kind of reduce that electrical charge, clogging of the system and all that. So get some of those minerals, nutrients back in. We use Restore in the water frequently, so if you drink reverse osmosis or DI, just a splash of Restore in there, splash of sea salt, and suddenly you've got a very biodynamic H2O that just moments later was just kind of a dead, coagulated water kind of concentration that's not going to get inside the cells effectively. And so those are pieces of the puzzle towards getting towards that healthy water. And when it comes to eating it, it's the fiber that wins the game. So the daikon radish, again, the turnip, the beets, all of these with these super high fiber contents, especially in this dehydrating time of winter when we're under forced air in our buildings and everything's so air conditioned with heat and it's just drying the air out, we tend to crack our mucous membranes, which makes us prone to anything from kind of viral overgrowth or change in our pH, all this through that cracking of membranes. Skin, we age quicker when we're dry. And so in that anti-aging effort, think about the way in which you're getting water. Make sure you diversify that. Huge fan of herbal teas here in the wintertime. And so instead of just drinking water, if you put a botanical into that water mix, like throwing in some sea salt, you're going to change the electrical charge because that herb is interacting with it. So I drink a ton of herbal tea this time of year. Big fan of like the licorice teas. I'm a big fan of the mint teas. All of these have incredible medicinal properties to them. And so think about adding that in. There's one of my favorites is tilia. It's an extract that is like from a tree bark, TILIA. You get it in a dropper bottle. It's an extract. It's like, kind of like a thin sap. It's often suspended in an alcohol kind of tincture. A few drops of tilia in hot water, and then whole leaf stevia. Whole leaf stevia is a very cool compound that has extraordinary anti-cancer compounds. It is completely different than the powdered stevias that are on the market as far as artificial sweeteners. It takes only 2 drops, 3 drops of whole leaf stevia. It's dark brown. It looks like molasses. It's got all of those antioxidant compounds and everything else. The white stuff, the white powders that they're making now to stevia, that's highly processed. All of the interesting nutrients have been pulled out of there. All that's left is that sweetener where you really want the antioxidants and all the really cool stuff that was in that plant originally. So whole leaf stevia, it's pretty pricey. You'll buy a bottle of organic whole leaf stevia online or at your local health food store for probably 35 bucks. It'll last you 10 years. Like you will go so slowly through that. So it's actually pennies on the dollar on any sweetener on the market, and it's an antioxidant and all that. And so tilia tea, the licorice tea, the whole leaf stevia is a good go-to for the sweeteners. Sugar is definitely a dehydrator this time of year, so stay away from that in your beverages. You can use the whole leaf stevia in coffee if you're a coffee drinker, but get the sugars out of those beverages to help support that hydration effort.
All right, awesome. So lots of teas and lots of veggies and fruits that are loaded with water. And do you have a kind of number that you like to shoot for, ounces per day of water?
Yeah, I mean, the rough estimate is about ½ an ounce per body. Well, let's do it in pounds since most of the audience is in pounds. So in pounds, it'll be ½ an ounce of water for every body pound of weight. And so if you weigh 150 pounds, you'll be around 75 ounces of water, something like that. Which if you think of your typical 16-ounce sports bottle, that's only 4 or 5 bottles of water a day, and it's not like this huge like 8 or 12 glass stuff you hear. It can be a relatively modest amount of water if you get it into a biologic state. You could probably even drink less, especially if you're eating your water. And so I think that your 10x on a vegetable. The water in there is going to hydrate as if it's 10 times the volume as far as drinking that water. And so the vegetables are so much more effective at getting biologic water inside your cells that if you're eating a bunch of beets and those root vegetables throughout the winter, you're going to really benefit from that. So less volume in the glass, more volume on the plate might be one of your secrets.
Perfect. And add just a little shot of Restore in and you're good to go. Awesome. Well, thanks, Dr. Zach. Awesome tips again for staying hydrated. And if you want to learn more, go to intrinsichealthseries.com. Thanks for watching.